can we talk about? It's funny I should mention it because you actually released a video on it today. Can we talk about the Many Saints of Newark? So
Yeah.
I watched your review of it, and you seem quite positive about it. But funnily enough, the video you released today, it's
Yeah.
almost as if it's almost as if maybe you were holding back on certain things in the original video, and now you're kind
Mhm.
of releasing certain criticisms you had about it, or maybe not so much you have them, but audiences have them. So what did you think of the film then as a whole?
Yeah. So, the film as a whole, like, was basically like my first feels, like reactions and thoughts, and like my review. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being back in the Soprano universe. Of course, seeing a young Tony. I thought Vera Farmiga as Livia was like amazing, and I thought she really made the film, kind of carry in a way. Like, she really carried the film. But I thought it was like a B movie, like almost like an indie movie, but it was still good in its own way. Like, it had its own little charm to it with the references and the lines, right? With Uncle
Mm,
Junior saying those classic lines, the varsity athlete, stuff like that. I thought it was good, but I felt like, I don't know, like I said today in the video today, I was like, when I first left it, I was like, I wanted it to be really good because there was so much hype around it, right? Like, we've been waiting and waiting, and we finally got like this Soprano movie after all these years, right? And rumors, but then I was like, what really was that? Like, it didn't really blend well together. But I don't want to like knock it because I love The Sopranos. Like, I
mm.
can't knock it, but I thought it was fine. Like, it wasn't great. It's not gonna hold up as like a mafia classic, right? But I thought it was fine. Like I said, maybe like a 6, 7. But then today the video was just everything that I thought, and like, what I think audience thought was really wrong about it. Like, almost like a negative view, a
Mm.
negative review. Yourself?
So, oh well, I mean, see, with me, my reaction. It's important to know my kind of relationship with the movie going in because for most Sopranos fans, they were clamoring for more Sopranos content, and then the movie there was so much hype around it. We're gonna see young Tony Soprano and
Mhm.
how he got into the mob and all that kind of stuff. But I know this must sound really weird, especially coming from someone who makes so many Sopranos videos. But I think I've mentioned it a few times. I really didn't care about the film because for me, The Sopranos was so perfect. Like nothing can. There's nothing that can be added to this.
Right.
There's no movie that can come along and add to this, and there's nothing that can come along and take away from it either. That
Mm.
was what my thoughts were in my head. And I just thought this is so perfect. If I want more Sopranos content, I'll just rewatch it. I'll just rewatch
Right.
certain scenes or episodes, maybe even the entire show, or different seasons. It's like I mean, and I've got so much experience with sequels, reboots, remakes that were always disappointing. Even just recently, I reviewed The Matrix Resurrections, which was really poor in my opinion. And
Yeah, I heard it was really
it's,
bad.
yeah, and so it's one of those where okay, they're making a Sopranos movie. Yes, the people who made the original are back, David Chase, Alan Taylor, who's a director on the original show. They got so many great actors, but again, I couldn't shake this feeling that we don't need this. It's not necessary. I understand the whole thing about wanting more Sopranos content and a young Tony Soprano, him being played by the actual actor's son, all these little things.
Right.
But I couldn't help but feel that I was just so indifferent to it. And that's partly why I probably don't think it was as bad as many people do. Like a lot of people absolutely hate the film. It's got a lot of negative reviews. It seems to have been a critical flop looking at critics' reviews. And then when you see people commenting on your YouTube channel, they just rip it apart. They hate it so much. But I'm a bit like you. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought my overall thoughts were, yeah, it was all right.
It was
A
okay.
lot of
Yeah,
things
it was
could have
fine.
improved. It could have been worse, I guess, but a lot of
Yeah.
things could have been improved, and it was just it was all right. But because I wasn't invested into it. If I had been, if I was like so hyped up, and then I watched it, I would have probably just torn it apart. But I was indifferent to it leading up to it, and
Yeah.
even now, anything that happened cannot tarnish the Soprano. Even like say minor things, like say Silvio's hair. All of a sudden, we know now it wasn't real. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
hairpiece Whether that was the intention in the original series or not, that won't change the way I see Silvio's character. I know some people might be of the opinion that they can't look at the series in the same way. Like, say, obviously, big things like Junior Soprano killing Dickie, what kind of
Hmm.
impact that must have had on his relationship with Tony when you watch the scene where, don't you love me and all that kind of stuff. Like, you're
Yeah.
trying to kind of factor in those things that happened many, many years ago. But ultimately, it didn't really impact The Sopranos for me. I mean, so I thought it was all
And
right.
it
I just
doesn't
kind of thought it was
really.
all right.
Yeah. Like it doesn't really change the Sopranos too, you know? Like if you watch the film before you watch the Sopranos for the first time, it doesn't really do anything. It wouldn't change how you know, view the show in my opinion. And I think um, you know, you touched on something there. I'm just trying to remember it. Oh, like I didn't hate the film. It's not that I hate the film. Yeah, it was I just thought it was fine. Like it could have been better, it could have been worse. And it was I thought it was just average. I thought there was like a lot of hype surrounding it, you know, because like I thought we were gonna see, you know, Tony's first murder, him playing football, how he met Carmela, um, like yeah, like so many other things, but
See, I mean,
we never got
hyping
to
it,
see it.
hyping the film up only kind of does a disservice to yourself because
Yeah,
sometimes you set
like
the
they
bar
hyped
so
it up
high.
so much.
Yeah, you set the bar so high that the final film can't possibly, reach those impossible standards. Especially seeing as though it was only like 2 hours long. That's two
Yeah,
Sopranos episodes. It wasn't like some epic, 3 hour film or something like that. It was just a
right.
measly
I
little
know
two
we
hours.
waited 15, 14 years for 2 hours. It's just not good. I know, but like I talked about it too, like in the video today. It was just like The Sopranos was so perfect,
Mm.
right? And it's so hard to live up to those expectations of The Sopranos. I mean, nothing will ever come close to it, in my opinion. I mean, some people say Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, maybe The Wire, but I think it's the perfect TV show, like everything, right? Like it just set the bar so high, and I think that was the problem. The bar was so high, and then we thought this was going to be another Sopranos, basically another Sopranos episode that was 2 3 hours long, and it wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also another thing. I mean, not to defend the film because it is what it is, but uh, one of the complaints that I always see is that it didn't tell us the story of young Tony Soprano, his first hit, and all that kind of stuff. But I know out of all the complaints I have about the film, that isn't one of them because for me, the film never told us that it was going to be a young Tony Soprano story. If that makes sense, like I've seen interviews with David Chase saying he was frustrated with the film's marketing, but by them
Because the
saying it was,
poster,
yeah, like that
who
whole
made
thing, who
Tony
made Tony
Soprano, right?
Soprano? Yeah.
Right, but then the title of the film is The Many Saints of Newark, right? And then Moltisanti is it means saint or whatever. No, yeah, it means many saints in Italian, right? So,
Mm. Yeah,
mm,
because he said that the film was always about Dickie, and
yeah,
it's nothing at all about young Tony. You'll see it. I think ages ago he said something like you'll see little snippets of him in the film, and that's what happened in the movie. And I think that's where there was a kind of disparity because audiences maybe expected one type of film, which was a young Tony, basically an origin story, but what we
right,
got was a story that focused on somebody completely different. And then where we would have preferred maybe seeing more of beloved characters who were not in it or not in it that much, like Paulie or you know there's so many.
Ralph. I
But
would love to see Ralph.
yeah, we got new characters that a lot of people didn't have any interest in, like obviously Harold took up a lot
A
of
lot of
screen
screen time.
time, and I mean you could say he's maybe the second main character, and obviously
Hmm.
people didn't come for this movie to see someone like him. But you said something in your video today, which I've said many times, that I honestly believe it would have been so much better if it was a limited series, like even something like 6 episodes, maybe even 13 or whatever. But there was so many ideas shoved into that film that just needed time to breathe, to be spaced out. Like you could have
Yeah,
had that Harold storyline, and you could have made it a really good integral part of a season. You could have had the young Tony Soprano stuff, the Dickie Moltisanti stuff, the two Ray Liotta twins. There's
yeah,
a lot of good ideas in that film, and we could have had more of our favorite characters, people who were not in the movie at all. And the more I think about it, it's just a case of I really wish they had gone for a season, or a new show, or even just a limited series.
Yeah, like imagine a season, like a TV series, and the first episode is the second hour of the film, and then it
Mm,
ends with the junior on the phone. Like that would have been awesome,
yeah,
right? I mean, at least in my opinion, I think that would have been really cool. Like, you know, and you end it there saying it's done. That would have been really cool.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Because I mean, I don't know if you're following. You must know that there's obviously talks, aren't there, of new Sopranos content, and apparently
Yeah,
Chase wants another movie, but
because he
HBO
signed a
want
5-year
another
contract.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah, they want him to follow up Many Saints, and that's actually something I touched upon in my first review. I was like, this movie kind of feels like a kind of intro to a new season of like this is where young Tony Soprano is going to be explored. It's almost
yeah,
like the next Sopranos project, whether it's a movie or TV show, is going to be the thing that everybody wanted. A Tony Soprano origin story. That's what it kind of feels like. So would you?
yeah.
I mean, some people are like, no, just you've ruined it enough. I don't want to see anything more. Just leave my Sopranos alone. So what are your thoughts on if a new announcement was made about a new movie or TV show?
Oh, I love it. I check it out for sure. Yeah, like anything Sopranos related, I check out. Like, I mean, I have magazines here right beside me. Like, I have trading cards here. Like, I'm just obsessed with it. So, I mean, I don't care how bad it is, right? I'll still check it out. Like I said, like the Many Saints of Newark, like it kind of had like the Sopranos, its legacy attached to its name, which was kind of, it was kind of bad. Right? Like I felt like at times it used the Sopranos legacy to gain hype, to gain promotion, because it didn't feel like anything remotely close to the Sopranos at all. Like the even like its shots, lighting, like it just felt like really, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like really like B movie indie, but yeah, I don't know. And especially coming from Alan Taylor and David Chase, like who were so heavily involved in the show. I don't know. It's just Alan Taylor made me question his like his shots and like his direction of film.
Mm.
But if something came along, I'd be interested for sure. Yeah.
So what's your preference then for what happens next in The Sopranos? Movie, TV show, nothing? What do you want and what do you think you
What
should
would I
focus on?
want? That's a good question. Probably a TV show. I mean, I see because we see all these things like what is it, like the Book of Boba and like Star
Mm.
Wars. Like they all have like these TV shows, and they all seem to be doing really well, right?
Yeah,
So
Disney are
maybe
really milking Star Wars
yeah,
dry.
yeah, like maybe a TV show would be beneficiary to The Sopranos, and maybe even giving it over to someone like Netflix, maybe. I mean, if they're allowed, right? Because all this rights and all that, like copyright or something, or
Mm.
like because they're owned by like Crave.
I mean, the cast seem to want to do it as well because I don't know if you've seen, but Vera Farmiga, she actually wants. She was probably the best thing about the Many Saints, and she
Oh,
wants
she
to do a
was.
series. She said
Hmm.
she's not done with the character, and she wants to bring it back into a series. And
She was
that, I
brilliant.
mean, yeah, she was amazing in the film. The way she captured young Livia, and uh, I mean, I
Poor
was,
you.
yeah, she was brilliant. But what did you think then of? So let's run through some of the actors. I mean, so young Tony, what do you think of Michael Gandolfini in his father's role?
I thought he was okay. Yeah, I thought at times he was kind of like slurring his words. Especially the scene like where him and Dickie are like in the rain,
Right.
and he sounds like very childish. It's almost like he had like a lisp
He kind of
at
speaks like
times.
that in real life a bit. Like he's
Yeah,
got this thing where, and like you say, kind of like a lisp where
yeah,
he
and he's
has
got
that.
like a higher pitched voice too.
Hmm.
Hmm. But I thought he was fine, and like I said in the video today, like it's so hard to step into that role, even if it wasn't James Gandolfini's son. If it was anyone else, it would have been just as hard because the role of Tony Soprano and how he played it was like done to perfection, one of the greatest performances, let alone on a screen. Never mind just in television, but on a camera. For film
Hmm.
too, right? And I thought it was very difficult for him. I thought he did a fine job. Then we see glimpses of potential. That scene with him and Livia at the table. Um, the scene where he's talking to what is it, the guidance counselor. You know, we see like little glimpses of his potential, and I felt like, you know, it's there in a
Yeah, I
way.
mean, it's such a hard role to play. I mean, I've heard, I mean, this could be, the filmmakers just generating hype for his performance, but even he said it himself, Michael Gandolfini, about him having the ability to mimic his father, but the filmmakers told him to tone it down, as in, you're not there yet. You're not Tony Soprano when he was at that stage. You're a younger version, so you can't be like that. So maybe
Mm.
he could have, let's say, played it better in a general sense, but he had to kind of, like you said, it's such a difficult role because I mean, it's the same with like um, the guys who played Paulie and especially Silvio. How do you find the balance between being an in impersonation impersonator?
And acting.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's almost like there's no. I mean, this is the thing with prequels. This is one of the things they just uh, have to get right. Otherwise, there's major issues, and very rarely do they ever get it right. So, what did you think of
Yeah.
Silvio then? He's
I was not really impressed at all.
that
Yeah.
seems to be the one that sticks out a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about. And it's just like, I don't know, like it was funny when he did that walk towards the end of the film when a young Tony comes and visits like them at like the warehouse or whatever, and that was
Yeah,
because that was like spot on, like the walk where he's looking around, the hands are out, right? But
yeah, and he puts
I
his
don't
head
know.
in a certain way as well.
Yeah, yeah. But I wasn't really impressed because it felt like an impression. And I was like, that's not really acting. I don't know. It's just like anyone could do that. How hard is it to, you know,
Yeah, it's like a
do the
caricature,
face?
isn't it? But the irony is that Silvio in the original series is he's also a kind of caricature. He's I mean, it's like it's an impossible role to mimic and pretend you're a younger version of that. How do you
They
achieve
all
that?
are.
Yeah,
Yeah. That because that's what makes the show so great. It's like at times you watch it and it's just like it doesn't feel like acting because it feels like it was just real life and you're just watching it because we watch the characters grow over time, like especially Christopher and like
mm,
AJ and Meadow and everyone. We just watched them grow over time and it felt like real because
yeah.
the show is like it has so much realism in it, like it's crazy.